Welcome to the Properties to Profit podcast. I'm Michael, your host. Excited to share with you my journey from a six-figure job to building a successful real estate business. Each episode will explore various aspects of real estate investing, from wholesaling and flipping to managing rentals. I'll share the lessons and insights I've gained, aiming to help you avoid mistakes and achieve your financial goals. Expect guest experts, valuable tips, and practical advice to guide you on your own real estate journey. Thank you for tuning in. If you find any value in this podcast, please subscribe, share, and follow me on social media. Let's turn properties into profits together.
Hey guys, Michael here with Properties to Profits. And on today's episode, I want to talk about, would I give up equity in my company? That is a question I get a lot. I've probably gotten it 30, 40, maybe 50 times this year already. And as someone who has given up equity in a company, it is a lot tougher to give it up anymore. Meaning most times I've given up equity, it hasn't worked out. And let's look at why it hasn't worked out. A lot of the people were just baseless promises, meaning they said they were really good at something and it turned out to be a lie. And I had to hire a whole bunch of lawyers to undo those things. And it just wasn't worth my time. They never fulfilled their end. Every single time, that's how it worked out. But there has been 2 times where it did work out. And let's talk about those 2 times. One is an employee who's been with me for over a decade. She's always improved herself. She's almost always done what I've said. And she always goes above and beyond. And she never worries about compensation. She always gets paid on the back end. So she'll go get the result that is desired. And then 12, 18 months later, once it's profitable, then she gets a raise. And so after doing that 2 or 3 times, it's like, you deserve a little bit more. So she now sees equity. Now her equity doesn't pay her a ton. It probably pays her 50, 60-ish grand in 2024. And then hopefully it breaks 6 figures in 2025 and beyond. And she doesn't have equity in my main business. She has equity in another business. And then the other example is someone else. Once again, it wasn't their skill set, actually. They came to me and said, hey, what can I do to get equity here? And I'm like, you don't have the skill set that I would just give you equity today. So it's like, hey, let's give this 5-10 years and see if you have a skill set and see if you earn equity. A lot of people don't realize that's what it takes to earn equity. If you can't bring money, you don't have a skill set that has a proven track record. Doesn't matter what you say you will do. So many people say they're going to do something. So many people say they're going to go make $250,000 and they never do. Because if you were going to go make $250,000, you could literally start making $250,000 or be on the path to $250,000 in a month, maybe 2 months, if you chose to do it. But most people won't choose to do it. They will say and talk and never allow their actions to backfill that. So why would I give you a promise of equity if that's the truth? Now, if you are a earner who's used to making $250,000 and you came in and said, hey, I'll work for 100 and I have proof that you can do what I need done, meaning 5+ years of doing it at a high level, then yes, I would give that person a small chunk of equity. And now it wouldn't be very significant in where my size of company is because I've got off the ground floor, we're profitable, and we're producing revenue. So it might be 1% to 2% depending on the role, right? Now, if it was a person who's going to come run my whole company, maybe it would be 5%, 6%, 7%. And where our revenues will hopefully be in line for 25, that could be an extra 50, 60, 70 grand. And if it turns out that this continues on the path that we're on, that could turn into a $500,000 check in the next 5 to 7 years, right? And so the equity play means you're willing to forgive current compensation for future gains. And there is risk in that. There is no guarantee. So you're not going to get a guarantee of that, right? And if I'm going to give you something in equity, you better come in hot out of the gates. You better be setting any records for whatever role you're in and setting the bar extremely high. If you're going to get equity, you're taking something off of the owner's plate that he or she can't do, or you do it so much better that they have no choice but to give you equity because they can't pay for it. If they can go replace you with a salaried position, you're probably never deserving of equity. If you're the first one in and the last one out and still not the best performer, you're probably not deserving of equity. I personally believe in my company in the next 5 to 10 years, I won't own majority anywhere. I believe in 10 years, I will not own majority because to get the high level people that is going to help us grow $1 billion business, they won't work for a salary. They want a multiple upside return. but those people will have proven that they have done something, or they will work for 5 years to prove that they can do something. And then they will come and ask for a profit share on the back end going forward. And those people will be so good that I will have no choice but to give them that, because they will have proven themselves, assuming we are all aligned. This only works if you back your word, you have the talent and the skill set and the desire to do it. And then we must be aligned on core values and what we want out of life. So otherwise that will just create conflict. So a lot of times it's younger people who ask me this a lot of times. It's either younger people or older people. I'll give you 2 examples. I've had a couple like 19 to 21-year-olds ask me, maybe 22, maybe 23. And they're, I'm great at sales. I'm like, great. How much do you make? And they're like, 70,000. That's not my definition of great. I worked at my last company where the top 10 salespeople made 300,000 plus. If that wasn't you, I'm sorry. And most of them I wouldn't hire, because in a startup, they don't understand how much more work has to go into that and what they need to do. Right. And if you haven't done it for 5 years, I don't think you're great at it. 1 year could be considered lucky. 2 years could be considered lucky. We've all known people who have done 2 years of something great and then drifted off into the sunset and never came back because they weren't great at it. So on the young side, it's really hard to get equity on the front end. You're going to have to prove who you are, and that's going to take 5 to 10 years. And there's a chance it may not work out. But at the end of the day, if you did everything in your power and you were really deserving of it, you're going to have so many opportunities. So it's probably worth that risk if you're under 30. Now, on the flip side, if you're over 30 and you're asking for equity, you've had working experience, right? And if you're a salesperson, we've had a salesperson who's like wants unlimited upside. It's like, oh, you can do that as a salesperson, but he's like, I want to manage people. That's a little bit tougher. But they wanted equity too. And they're like, oh, great. How well have you managed people? Oh, I've managed 2 people. Oh, how much do they make? $80,000. Well, I have new sales reps in their first 12 months making $135,000. So not that great, because if he was that great, he would have people there. Now the opportunity may not have been there, but it was a big, big $1 trillion opportunity. And so it's like, you guys just aren't that good at it, unfortunately. Because if you were that good at it, you'd be worth a lot more than $100,000, right? And so for me to go find someone who's going to come into management that I'm going to give up equity in a sales manager role, that person manages somewhere between 10 to 12 sales reps making $200,000 plus a year. They're used to growing revenue 25 to 50% year over year in a company ranging from 5 to 25 million anyway. Or they manage a sales force that is doing 100 million plus, right? And they're managing 30, 40, 50 guys, whatever that looks like. And so that's what I'm looking for. If someone's going to come run my whole company and they're willing to take less than $100,000, but they want equity, we would talk about that. If they've ran a freaking $50 million plus company and grew a company from $10 million to $50 million in 2 to 3 years, I would seriously consider giving up equity if someone knew how to do that, right? So it's really hard to get equity and a guarantee of equity if you've never done anything. So for the youngsters out there, you're going to have to go work like no one else and set every single record for 5 years straight. Show them that you are the baddest dog in the race, and then get equity. If you don't get equity, you can't be upset. You got to realize you made a ton of money. And at the end of it, you then learn that, hey, I can do this. Now go get it in writing, because now you have proof. When you have the trophies to show for it, when you have the sales sheets and you can prove, you have the commission checks of 20, 30, 40 grand month in and month out. Yeah, now an owner will pay you and potentially give you equity, and you don't have to worry about the payroll, the insurance side, the money side, any of those things. That's what you want to go after. So create the resume. If you're not showing up every day 100% and doing your best every day, you're probably never going to get equity in anything in life that's sustainable. And that is so hard. But a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize that. So that's my 2 cents on how to determine, is there a way to give equity, and how would I determine if I would give up equity? Those are some of the baselines I would look into. Like I said, I believe in the next 10 years, I will have multiple people who have equity making multiple 6 figures, if not 7 figures. And it's just because I believe to grow to $100 million plus business in the next 5 years, that's what it's going to take. and I believe $1 billion in the next 20 years, that's what it's going to take, is people are going to have an unproportional amount of an upside other than the work they do. And the only way to do that is through equity or profit splits. And we will be doing a ton of those. So if you are one of those skill sets and you think you could come run our home buying company and get us from that $4 to $5 million mark we are to above the $10 million mark in a year, or over $100 million in the next 5 years, we'd love to have a conversation with you. But no, it's not going to be given easy. And you're going to have to put in the work and to get there. We would love to find killer people like that who are worthy and determined to go get that. That sounds like you. Reach out to me on Instagram. It's realestatemike02.
Thank you for listening to the Properties to Profit podcast. I hope you found today's episode valuable. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and share it with others who might benefit. Follow me on social media for more updates and tips. Until next time, keep turning properties into profits.